Okay, entonces, so let's do another video. Okay, I'm not that prepared because, yeah, I think it's related with the protest today uh, for the survivors that are left in Gaza. And yeah, then the life of these people becomes an act of survival. That's the idea. So then, okay, so we have, I'm just gonna use my one of these papers on the back just to recycle some stuff. So how this technology can affect people in the Gaza Strip compared with what I have felt. I know that this can give you severe hunger, so much that you could eat mud, rocks, everything to feed your stomach. And when you eat rocks, you die. And I see now I seen videos of kids in Gaza eating what would be water mixed with earth, with dry earth. And this is hunger is one of the effects that they can somehow impose in a drastic manner. In my case, it makes me just hold my head and go in fetal position because it will be immense, that feeling. And it happened for me every single night, during 5 years. Now, why this is possible? Look, the technology of the Iron Dome is obviously a tracking system with AI. Yeah, it simply finds the coordinates. I mean, AI is everywhere. This is not a secret. Yeah, we live in the age of AI. It's just that we have not realized that we are submerged in AI. There are dispositives, gadgets that are done with AI. Let's say, I don't know, anything like your remote control in your TV could be designed by AI and you don't know. But we are talking about electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves are so cheap energy-wise to produce, and when it comes to attack the neurological system, it is extremely low energy. Yeah, so it's like low latency waves and low latency energy, and this will be something that will require technologies like 5G or but not necessarily 5G. It's just the technology of 5G. This is the situation. A wave can be divided infinitely, and the pulsations between waves can also be infinitely done. So technically, you in one package of information that could last 1 second, in theory, you can send an infinite amount of information, and this is difficult to comprehend. Yeah, because we are talking about limited infinites. But you have to comprehend as well that there are big infinites, small infinites, and equal infinites. So let's say a small a small group of infinites is, for instance, the prime numbers. Yeah. So we start with 1, 3, 5, 7, and the longer we go, usually we start to have like a pattern in which in between prime numbers there is a gap of other real numbers. But the amount of prime numbers is infinite. So compared with the natural numbers, there is an infinite that is bigger than the other one. Yeah. Now, let's say let's say the odd numbers and pairs, there are two equal infinites. Okay. And that's also an important concept. So, but the point is like a wave that can be divided infinitely. It depends on how precise is this kind of technology. And then when we have something like the Iron Dome that is tracking several rockets, we are talking about swarm technology. We are talking about several rockets coordinating between them to not crash the same kind of objective, but orderly catching every single other rocket. So here, I mean, you don't have to be a genius to know this. It's just basic reverse engineering. So then we have swarm technology, and we have a sophisticated usage of electromagnetism or radar systems. Yeah. What is more impressive here is the attacks that were done by Iran, who sent, I don't know, I think there were like 3,000 rockets. It's something an amount that is mind blowing. I don't know, it was a lot, or 300 rockets, all at the same time. They all got caught in the first attack, and that's impressive. So then we have that there is a sophisticated radar system that is there. But this radar system uses a technology as well that could be used for neuroweapons. Yeah. So then what we will be seeing in Gaza is most likely an experiment in which a lot of different new vanguard, state-of-the-art technology of weapons are exist or something's happening in my computer. Okay. Nothing weird was happening with the cooling system. I have yeah, hydraulic cooling system or something like that. Okay, so then we have that this swarm technology could be used against a lot of the population. Yeah, perhaps not the simplest one, the easiest one, the most simple one, because you don't require the targeting of let's say you don't require a scanner of the brain. Let's say when in my case I start to receive thoughts that are inserted by words and so on, it requires depending on a kind of a scanner. But as I say, when we put our phones on the head, that could be done like an MRI slow motion. And when we talk about the division of the waves, we are talking about waves that could go in more or less the, I'll try to draw that. We are talking about waves that could go in a very let's say fine manner that could send many kind of signals. Let's say I could say I could in 1 second I could drop a kind of code Morse of peaks and troughs, but also I could say in between them, in the peaks and troughs, another kind of wave signal. Yeah. So more or less, it will look like something crazy like this. Okay. But imagine that we are talking about millions of parameters, millions of different codifications. So, but this is going directly to the brain. So it's very likely that people in Gaza is experiencing they might not be able to sleep. Yeah, they might not be able to sleep because they do that to me. And if I don't take my medication, then I cannot go to sleep. Yeah, that's one of the situations. So then another situation is anger. I don't know how the circuit of anger looks in the brain. Okay, but this technology can stimulate anger. So as soon as this technology pushes anger in my head, I start to feel it. But I practice since I was in my early 20s. I practice every time I feel anger to notice my anger. So I see my anger in third person. Yeah, it's not something that possesses me or controls me, but it's rather something that I manage. But okay, sometimes I just let it go because I want to, but it's not really often. And I have never ever been really, really angry. I can I can't remember really when anything like that happened. Like me getting mad without knowing what I'm doing. It has never happened. Now, then we have the people in Gaza most likely is experiencing at least there are at least I can comprehend three stages of this technology of sophistication. One is electroshocks, direct electroshocks. For this, you just have to have the silhouette of the person, and then let's say if the person is static, most likely sleeping, then you can target the person easily. This can be done with low budget technology even, but you just need AI. Yeah, you just need AI that decodes the environment in that decodes the environment in the electromagnetic field, and then you can pinpoint the head and send electroshocks because yeah, I have experienced those electroshocks since a while. Then is we have that the brain has a kind of waves that are between 3 to 12 hertz, very low latency. And if you send another waves to noise canceling your waves in your brain, yeah, it's possible also to create depression. It's possible to create depression. It's possible to stop certain situations of alertness, because then, yeah, remember that this is a chemical reaction that is done by electromagnetic waves, or otherwise it's a chemical reaction that activates the receptors, neurological receptors and transmitters, because there is a microvoltage that simply uh, activates those the release of certain, let's say, neurotransmitters and neurological receptors. So then it is very likely that, okay, this is the part of the conspiracy, yeah? But it's not conspiracy, it's technically feasible. Every time you put your head on your phone on your head, the signal that enters through one side is known. Then it enters to the phone, but it has received some alterations already. But then the codification goes in this way. It's possible to know the peaks and troughs of this, but then when this enters to your brain, you will be seeing new kind of alterations, yeah? That, let's say, will generate a kind of corruption, or will generate a kind of new fingerprint of the electromagnetic field, and that includes everything that is made of matter. So through time, you can simply dissipate using the input, and you will subtract it from the new noise, and then you process that data through AI to decode physically what is next to the receptor, which is the phone, the electromagnetic receptor. This is a receptor and transmitter. So then it's possible to even do experiments. If someone is talking on the phone, then the phone would send certain specific transmitters just to detect different kind of tissues. Some tissues might detect the crane, some tissues might detect other stuff. But this is the crazy part. Most of the people has the same kind of body, so nowadays it's not even necessarily to decode the body of the person, because most of the person's body are similar. So then it's possible to attack a part. But that's electroshocks. This is the first tier. First tier are electroshocks. The second tier is voice to school, and also stimulation like anger, hunger, depression, inflammation. And the third tier is fine toe inserting. Yeah? Images as well, and sound. So this is whether because the frontal part of the brain processes images, processes everything. This is like a RAM. This has every single kind of information that you could have. It retrieved from another parts of the brain, etc. So this is the part that gets attacked the most, and you feel it. You feel the electromagnetism. It has become so refined recently since the large language models became public. It has become so refined that sometimes it's difficult to detect electromagnetic wise. But then, yeah, it comes like the reading and can simply be done in an easy form. So to put it in another example, imagine that imagine that this line is simply a beam of electromagnetism, an electromagnetic signal. This beam really looks like this, yeah, but for simplicity, it's gonna look like that now. But to make it, yeah, maybe I will need to buy some more gadgets when I write the stuff on the paper. But now whatever enters that is new because it trespasses matter, etc., it will look like this. But most of the time we are on the street in open space using our phones. Yeah, then it's when it's more likely to detect the pure kind of intromissions that will have, or let's say the kind of fingerprint that will create your uh, your electromagnet your ele electric neurological fingerprint or something like that. Yeah. So then we don't know if this is used in Gaza, but most likely because obviously Israel has this technology and is mixed with swarm technology, and this kind of neuroweapons is, yeah, it's pretty much what is everywhere. Now, why is important to make this war overt? Because that will allow the countries to say we're gonna place detectors everywhere to protect our citizens. So we're gonna have quantum radars everywhere. And because electromagnetism is so cheap to detect and also is low energy, then what it comes to be high energy is the processing of the computing of these electromagnetic waves. But now this will look like the Matrix 2 or 2.0. First, one of the problems is that fighting for land is not for war. Is how war started. Okay? Fighting for resources, for places to plant food, resources. Resources are not necessarily anymore as before. The problem is that we are not consuming as much, so then our economies are going towards AI, robots, and also they are going towards war. The part of the economy that is becoming only for civilians is very small now. Yeah, because technically we have achieved a lot of things that most humans cannot even consume. Then technically is efficient economic wise to create war. Humanity wise it's not efficient. Yeah. What's the problem with this? That such efficiency leads to not have the need for land, because land is mainly a resource used for plantations. We have vertical new kinds of technologies for plantations, and also, well, the area doesn't allow me to bring specific words, but this is a super easy word again. But it's super difficult to speak because at the same time that I'm being attacked on a lot of medication, okay? So it's super difficult for me to explain this, but then we have vertical plantations. It's gonna diminish the need for land. Resources can be negotiated, and if you are the country that has the technology to process those resources, it's gonna be cheap. Second, if you are the country who has those resources, you're gonna sell that, but the problem is that the creation of the creation of products for which it's gonna be something usable is minimal. Yeah, let's say petrol is very useful for powering, yeah, cars, whatever related with energy, and plastics. Yeah, so we consume plastics and all that sort of stuff. But then there are also another resources that are valuable and for which are not worth it even to fight, because there are not many countries that process that. Yeah, and imagine people say that in Ukraine lithium is one of the most fought resources, but also lithium might be energy-wise technology that not gonna be useful in the future. Lithium is a kind of salt and is considered a kind of rare mineral. But lithium can be replaced by many other salts, and the kind of salts that exist are a lot of different salts. The salt that the salt, the salt can even be generated in a lab. A new kind of refined salts out of table salt. You could create new kind of salts. Yeah. So, but that's the point. So somehow the salts can retain an extra electron, or maybe more than one, or depending on the kind of battery. But at the end, we are talking about salt. We are not talking about lithium. We are talking about the range of salts. Yeah, because uh, sodium comes to be a kind of a, um, a kind of conductor, but if you can encapsulate electrons whilst that conductor hold them, then you have a new kind of battery and so on. But there are there are several ways in which resources are not worth fighting because we are becoming hyper efficient in certain technologies. Yeah. So then it's something like the West decide that it's gonna secure petrol, just and the whole economy runs on petrol, and that was the problem with the car industry in Germany. That they focus their their cars on only or mainly in in yeah in internal combustion cars. But I remember when I was to France, when I went in 2015 or something like that, they were displaying a Renault that was electric one. So the technology has been there before, but for some reason it was not pushed. But the electric car has been there for a long time. China did not follow that strategy. China secured energy instead of, efficient energy. And now that's why they are winning or leading the technology on renewables. And this is huge because the future is renewable. If it's not renewable, then the future is dystopic. Yeah. And okay, then going back to what is happening in Gaza, is that if neuroweapons are there, that war, as well as the Ukraine war, is fought on fake ideals or is fought on fake arguments to hold not the reality, not what is needed properly, but the old matrix. And this is the old matrix, not the new one, because the new matrix, in the new matrix, that ideally we're gonna build. I mean, this technology is open, yeah, and then every single attack on civilians will be detected, yeah. We are talking about civilians like me that has been attacked once and over again and over again and over again, yeah, and we have been attacked and we don't know who's the attacker, okay. But if I will have, let's say, a couple or three radars around my house, then they will know exactly who is attacking me, yeah. And these attacks can be done not only in 5G. 5G is the thing that I don't pay attention the more. Yeah, the, the, I don't pay attention the most. But we are talking about the technology for your phone, not necessarily 5G. We are talking about even Bluetooth technology. We are talking about Wi-Fi. We are talking about, I know that I don't know all the names of these technologies. We are talking about the technologies that use satellites. We are talking, and the satellites alone must have a lot of different kind of technologies. And now, if we talk about quantum, the thing gets super crazy. But super crazy because we are talking about subparticles creating effects of magnetism to a speed that must be mind-blowing, yeah? Close to the speed of light, I do believe. And then imagine if this is at the quantum level, then the energy will be so low that it could be feasible to detect with quantum radars, but then the attacks can be very precise because the brain only needs a few microvolts to have an attack. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm gonna start to study, but we need to know if these weapons are being used there because that's gonna make sense. Other things that could happen in the side of the ADF. First, the ADF, what you see, I have a lot of, since I was 17, I was pushed things about hating the Jews, but my favorite writer is Jew. A lot of people that I know is Jew that I carry in my heart. A lot of people that I met I don't know. Also, I admire the Jewish tradition. I know that the Holocaust was one of the mistakes of humanity, but I know that Gaza is also a mistake of humanity. And I know that the protest in Israel against Netanyahu has been happening even before the last war started. And I know that uh, most of the IDF is not enjoying what happened. We are talking about kids. We are talking about kids, again, who have received training. They are in a group, in a tribal kind of group, but we are talking about the allowance of hate. And they're gonna grow and they're gonna understand what had happened, and it might make a whole generation of Israel bitter, yeah, not proud. But also there is the situation that the people in Israel has been protesting even before this war started, and they continue protesting, and this has been kind of not. This has been downplayed, yeah, because we are talking about this protest being led by members of the IDF themselves, or reservists, or people who don't go to war for objection by conscience. They are conscious that they should not go to war, so they say, I'm not going to do it, and they don't do it. They go to jail. I think they go to jail like 90 days or something like that for that. But this is something to keep in mind, that there is a lot of people in Israel that do not want this war, and it's a huge amount of people that is not visible at the moment. Now, this situation also can create excitement. I mean, it's not the situation. I mean, when I talk about the situation, it's the neuroweapons context is used to create excitement. The neuroweapons can create also arousal. The neuroweapons can create like positive feelings, like a kind of boost of happiness, like a kind of antidepressant, and can make you feel super awake. Yeah. So this is obvious something that has been used, or could be, if the neuroweapons are used there, this has been used to enhance the IDF performance. So then this means that maybe these kids who are attacking other people in Gaza, they don't know that they are at the same time cause some kind of excitement that could cause addiction to what they do, or could simply they could not make sense of what's happening because their feelings then are being coerced violently. Their feelings might not show up as feelings of empathy, but maybe it's because technically their minds are being directly hijacked to feel pleasure or to feel happiness or to not feel any kind of sadness. Yeah. So yeah, this is something to keep in mind. Yeah. And if neuroweapons do not go public, then we're gonna be fighting until there is no more people, because this gonna be automatized. So then, what happened to me was something similar like the Bondi massacre. This is a new kind of terrorism, but terrorism cannot be the doctrine for the West. So why most likely this is happening? Because it has always worked to create an enemy. But then this is an old kind of mentality. So we are at the moment again led by what is a gentocracy. A lot of all people leading, all people leading the country, all people leading the different kind of countries, you know? But the old school. But that you are old does not mean that you are a bad leader. But technically, you are old and you have this addiction for power. It's like Winston Churchill that used to say that the the dictators cannot get out of a tiger because the tiger eat them. Yeah, something like that can happen. And we have these democracies in which there is a kind of all kind of mentality happening, and this is reflected precisely in what's happening. Because most of these people will use AI as a tool without not knowing the capacities of AI. They cannot imagine what AI can do. They only use AI for what they know it can be used for. So then it's like using a hammer. No, it's not. The hammer will be the old technology, but it's more like using a mobile phone as a hammer. Yeah, something like that. Imagine you use your mobile phone as one of those landlines phones. Then you will put your mobile phone on. It will be something like this. These people is using AI in this way. So they use their smartphone. They talk with the smartphone and they don't put it in their pocket. They leave it in the desk. They go away, and when the smartphone rings, they think that they think that it is like a landline. They think that the smartphone continue having a kind of court, yeah, but there is no court, and they cannot go far away from what they do because simply they don't know the capacity of this technology, because this technology is what brings the utopia. Yeah. So let's see. I'm gonna try to work the next following days in seeing what is this utopia, how this look like, because most of the literature talks about a dystopia, and we need to find a framework defined in which humans can be free. It's not an ideology. It's not an ideology of assumptions of how the future should be, how is human nature. No, it's a framework that contains more than that. Yeah. Okay. That's it for today.